Welcome back. So let's have a quick look at an AFV that is close to my heart. In Australian service, the venerable M113A1 has equipped armoured transport and reconnaissance units as well as mechanised infantry formations. They played an important role in Vietnam, supporting Australia's commitment from 1965 to 1972. During the Vietnam conflict, Australia saw a need for a fire support variant to be an air-portable vehicle with a medium calibre gun that could provide direct infantry support. The MRV, or Medium Reconnaissance Vehicle, is the second iteration of this concept, uniquely Australian in design. The MRV uses the FV-101 Scorpion turret and is armed with a 76mm M113A1 gun. To remain amphibious, buoyancy tanks are fitted to the front and sides of the hull. Including prototypes, 48 MRVs were built from newly acquired M113A1s and were approved for service by 1978. The MRV served in armoured reconnaissance units in the Australian Army until they were removed from service in 1996. Model kits of Australian armoured vehicles are somewhat limited in number, but in recent years, AFV Club has stepped up and released some exciting kits. This version of the MRV is their most recent release. So this is an upgraded version of AFV's earlier release, and it looks like they've improved the details and painting options, which is a great start. Okay, let's have a look inside and see what we're going to work with. This kit is an amalgamation of parts from 3 other M113 kits, and the turret from an FV-101 Scorpion kit. One thing that's guaranteed to happen, something's probably not going to fit correctly. Thumbing through the instruction booklet, and it's obvious that in 1/35 scale there's going to be a lot of fiddly parts to work with, especially with this turret. Interestingly, the track's joined with the use of a metal track pin, slightly unique to AFV, but it's going to be interesting to try and work with. My familiarity with these M113s tells me that this won't be a shake and bake kit. Colour callouts look accurate, and there's 3 marking options, so that's a really good start too. Looking over the box contents, and I can immediately see there's a lot of spares for M113s going straight into my parts bin. As there is no internal fit out for the Scorpion turret, I'm going to keep all the hatches closed, which will make it a relatively simple build, but there's still a lot to go on. If only I had all these internal spares back in the 1980s when I was building Tamiya M113s and had to use Verlinden resin upgrade kits. The good old days, Verlinden parts. Okay, so I'm looking for the vinyl tracks here, because if these aren't what I need, then I'm going to look for an aftermarket solution. Actually, these look pretty good. Design is accurate, and those track pads are going to be really nice when I weather them. That's not a bad start at all. Well done, AFV Club. Let's get into the build, starting with the boxy hull. A feature of Australian M113s is an armour upgrade that was made to every vehicle in Australian service following experience from Vietnam. Carriers in standard configuration are vulnerable to mines. Following several mine incidents, additional armour plates were added to the belly and under-sponson areas to vastly improve crew survivability. A feature of this kit is workable torsion bar suspension. No modification is required, and is a lovely inclusion straight out of the box from AFV Club. Road wheels are glued to the trailing arms. The mating surfaces do not have a positive connection, and it's easy to misalign the road wheels. So I'm using Tamiya extra thin cement, which has a delayed setting time, and it gives me a reasonable working time to then bond the parts and complete the alignment slightly later. It also helps if you try to apply the road wheel the right way around. The whole front plate requires a little modifications, where we'll fill the holes that would normally mount the pins for spare tracks. Also, take your time aligning the front plate, or the engine covers are going to fight you in the next step. Even though I've elected not to fit the internal details, I still need to fit the wall structures to prevent the misalignment of the sides of the hull. This will prove to be an issue a little later when I fit the whole top plate. The internal walls sit a fraction too high and will need some trimming, otherwise the top plate won't sit down to the correct height. The ramp actually has a lot of small fiddly components, and it's rather important that you check alignment of these as you work. The combat door, towing pintle, hinges, etc., they all need to fit correctly. Fitting the ramp to the hull actually is pretty straightforward. Just be careful not to set it too high, or the hinges at the base of the ramp aren't going to align correctly. The rear mudguards, well, they require a little attention to align them too. Paying attention to these steps is important, as you'll build on them when adding other components to the rear of the vehicle. With the hull now essentially completed, there's a sense of how AFV Club designed their kits. There's a lot of small fiddly pieces, but the trade-off here is excellent and accurate detail. Onto the Scorpion turret. The upper and lower halves actually join effortlessly and were pretty easy to work with. There's a lot of clear parts to fit onto the turret. Obvious components include the vision blocks, but that's really just a starting point. There's some photo etched like the hatch support brackets, which are a nice touch in brass. What really surprised me was some of the clear parts that are being used, like lifting eyes. What's going on here, AFV Club? The jerrycan holders are accurate for Australian vehicles. There is actually enough jerrycan holders in the kit to not only do the two which are mounted to the turret, either side of the bin at the back of the turret, but you'll also get enough to mount one above one of the mudguards on the rear, which was or a modification done by certain units, so it's nice to be able to have those there as well. AFV Club offers several options for the machine guns in this kit. The 2 flex mounts on top of the turret, one each for the crew commander and the gunner, are accurate, and the coaxial MG, either a 50 cal or 30 cal, offered in 2 versions, is also accurate depending on the variant being built. A nice touch is the flex mount white light. Made from all clear parts, it's just visible in front of the commander station. Again, another object which is done in all clear parts, but given that there's a lens on the front of the light, this kind of makes sense. The fit for the 76mm main gun is somewhat, well, questionable. Small nub, large hole. I'm not sure what they were thinking here. My solution here is that I'm going to use a lot of extra thin and make sure I absolutely melt these components together, never to be separated again. This kit had some surprises. Parts not fitting, some incorrect part number callouts, and the instructions weren't always clear. Speaking of clear, there is an unusually large number of clear parts in this kit. I get that the vision blocks are necessary, but the machine guns, lifting eyes, well, that's just a little odd, AFV Club. What were you thinking? On the plus side, the detail here is fantastic. Being very familiar with this vehicle, I found it a joy to build, and at certain times, the nostalgia of building a vehicle I served with had me on the internet looking at images of past glories. This uniquely Australian vehicle deserves its place in our model cabinets. The M113 family has been in service for 60 years, and variants like this deserve their place in our hearts. I recently launched my Patreon page where I share all that I do. There are almost daily posts from my workbench, ad-free videos, high-resolution pictures of my builds, and you can talk to me one-on-one about your builds and so much more. A huge thank you to my current patrons who support my work so that I can continue to produce these videos. If you choose to join them, that would be great and would certainly help me a lot. No pressure, of course. For the next couple of videos, I'll temporarily be moving to a fortnightly schedule, as I'm also visiting some local Australian model expos during that time. Being away from my workbench slows down my build schedule considerably, but the trade-off is that I can bring you some awesome video about scale model expos and museum visits while I'm away. So until next time, thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, and if you enjoyed the content, hit that like button, because that's how YouTube knows you enjoyed it as well.